Have you ever found yourself in a quiet moment wondering, what is the purpose of it all? What is the nature of truth? And is there a reliable path to a good life? For 2,500 years, some of the world's most thoughtful minds have grappled with these very questions. What if you could reflect on their key insights in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea? Let's take a thoughtful journey through 2.5 millennia of philosophy, from ancient Greece to the present day, and see what wisdom we can gather in under 8 minutes.
1. The ancient dawn of reason. Our story begins in ancient Greece, around the 6th century BCE. This was a time when a few thinkers began to ask a revolutionary question. What if we could understand the world through logic and reason, rather than attributing everything to the gods? This shift introduced the foundational thinkers of Western thought. Socrates, for instance, walked the streets of Athens encouraging others to see that the unexamined life is not worth living. He wasn't providing answers, but rather teaching a method of inquiry, a way to ask more thoughtful questions. His most notable student, Plato, explored more abstract ideas, asking, what is truly real? He proposed that our everyday world is a mere shadow of a higher, perfect reality he called the forms. Then Plato's student, Aristotle, brought philosophy back to the tangible world. He was deeply interested in the world we can observe, and he created systems for logic, biology, and ethics. His focus was on a practical goal: how to cultivate good habits, or virtues, in order to live a flourishing life. This intellectual awakening wasn't confined to Greece. Around the same period in China, Confucius was developing a framework for a harmonious society based on duty and respect, a philosophy that would influence a civilization for centuries. In India, the Buddha taught a path to end suffering by understanding reality and releasing our attachments. It was as if people across the world were simultaneously prompted to think more deeply about how to live. 2. The age of faith and reason. After the fall of the ancient empires, philosophy entered a new era, shaped by the major monotheistic faiths. For scholars in medieval Europe and the Middle East, the central challenge was to reconcile the logic of the ancient Greeks with divine revelation. Was philosophy a threat to faith? Influential thinkers like Thomas Aquinas in the Christian world, Avicenna in the Islamic world, and Maimonides in the Jewish tradition all concluded that it was not. They viewed philosophy as a valuable instrument for understanding the divine. Guided by Plato and Aristotle, they dedicated their lives to building a bridge between faith and reason, addressing profound questions about free will, the soul, and the nature of God. 3. The modern mind, reason versus experience. The Renaissance and the scientific revolution brought about another fundamental shift. The dominant question became, how can we know anything with certainty? This initiated one of philosophy's great debates. On one side were the rationalists, like René Descartes, who famously reduced his own existence to the statement, "I think, therefore I am." He believed that genuine knowledge is built from pure reason alone. On the other side were the empiricists, such as John Locke. He argued that the mind is a blank slate at birth, and that all knowledge comes from our sensory experiences. Are we born with innate ideas, or is everything learned? This discussion continued until Immanuel Kant offered a synthesis. He proposed that our minds are not passive receivers of information, but more like operating systems that actively organize our experiences. He demonstrated that reason and experience are both essential components of knowledge.
If these ideas spark your curiosity, subscribe and join us for more reflections on life's biggest questions. Now let's move to a time when even reason and certainty were challenged. 4. The existential turn and today. So, what happens when the traditional foundations of God, reason, and absolute truth are questioned? This was the inquiry that defined the 19th and 20th centuries. Friedrich Nietzsche made a pivotal statement: God is dead. His point was that humanity could no longer depend on a universal moral code, leaving individuals to face a new and challenging kind of freedom. This prepared the ground for existentialism. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre argue that existence precedes essence. In other words, you are born first, and only then, through your choices, do you define who you are. There is no predetermined purpose. You are entirely free, and with that freedom comes the total responsibility for creating your own meaning in life. While this can be a daunting concept, it is also an incredibly empowering one. This period also introduced new methods for analysis, from examining power structures with critical theory to refining our ideas with logic and language philosophy. After 2,500 years, what have we learned? From Socrates urging us to question everything, to Sartre encouraging us to create our own purpose, philosophy has never been about finding a single simple answer. It is a toolkit. It is the continuous practice of thinking clearly, questioning assumptions, and examining one's own life. The fundamental questions remain the same. What is real? How do I know? And how should I live? These are not merely historical puzzles. They are the most practical questions anyone can ask. They are the framework for a well-lived life. Thinkers from Aristotle to Confucius, across different eras and cultures, were all pursuing a similar goal: to find a little wisdom to live better. So perhaps the real question isn't what they thought, but what you will do with their ideas. What is one part of your own unexamined life that you might begin to explore today? If you enjoyed this journey through philosophy, subscribe and join us. And what is the one idea from this video that made you stop and think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, and see you in the next video.